haven't actually made any bread in a while. Let's make some bread. Hi everyone, it's Tasha. Welcome to another recipe video, and today we're going to be making sticky matcha buns. Timestamps are down below in the description if you'd like to skip the initial blah blah, but stick around if you want to hear a little bit more about the recipe we're making ahead of making it. We're going to be making a butter enriched dough, so it's going to be super soft and fluffy, and there's going to be matcha three ways: matcha in the dough, matcha in the sticky filling, and matcha in the icing. So with all that said, let's go to the kitchen and see how it's done. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to very generously oil a loaf pan, and we're going to be making our buns in this pan. Perfect. Now here I have 30 grams of unsalted butter, and I'm going to melt it down with 100 milliliters of boiling water. Let's give it a swirl. You can actually do this over the stove, but I find this way much lazier, so I don't have to switch the stove on. Makes no difference, to be honest. You can use cold water and then cook it over the stove. In fact, that's what I intended to do in this case. As you can see, I've put it in a small saucepan, but then I realised if I just add boiling water, it's going to melt by itself. So yeah, sorted. And once all the butter's melted, we're going to add 100 milliliters of milk, and this is just cold milk, so our mixture is going to be a little bit warm but not overly hot. There we go, set that aside. Now let's get on with making the dough. Here I have 300 grams of strong white bread flour, and I'm going to sift in about a heaped tablespoonful of matcha. Going to sprinkle in 50 grams of caster sugar, a pinch of salt, and a teaspoonful of easy bake yeast, also known as instant yeast or fast action yeast. I'm going to give these a bit of a stir together. I used to just make this with a wooden spoon in my hands, by the way, but now that I have this dough hook feature on my hand mixer, I'm going to use that. And now we're going to dump in our still slightly warm milk and butter mixture. And we're just going to mix this until it comes together and forms a dough. Now the reason why I like using the dough hooks is because you don't have to use quite as much elbow grease to knead this dough. So you can see the dough is already starting to come away from the sides of the bowl, and that is the gluten that is activating and making it very springy. So let's keep going until we have a nice solid elasticated ball. Or elasticated, one of those. And then it's only going to take a couple of minutes of like hand kneading, whereas if we hadn't used the dough hooks then it would have probably been about 20 to 30 minutes of hand kneading, which is what I used to do, but I like this new tool. Once it's reached the stage when it is starting to unstick from the bowl, we are going to, whoops, I don't know what that was, we're going to switch to our hands. Because unlike having a good stand mixer, with a hand mixer you have a bit less power, so you are unfortunately going to have to use your hands for a few minutes for dough. So I'm going to put just a little bit of plain flour down here on a work surface. Scrape all of this dough out onto it. There we go, I should really get a plastic dough scraper. And I'm just going to finish the job by hand. It's nearly done, as you can see, it's already very springy. And now that we have nice, smooth, elastic dough, we're going to pop this in a lightly oiled bowl. Cover it with cling film. And now we're going to leave this to rise until it has doubled in size, and this can take anything from half an hour to 2 hours even, depending on how warm or cold your room is. It's been just under an hour and look at how massive our dough is. So now here comes my favourite part, punching it down. We've got to squish it all up. Now I'm going to lightly flour our surface again. I'm going to get our dough out and we've got to roll it out now. So what we want is actually a roughly 30 by 30 centimetre square. So let's cover both sides with some flour so it doesn't stick. Going to grab our rolling pin and I'm just going to roll it out into a roughly 30 by 30 centimetre square. And you can use your hands to ease it into shape as well. Now that this is roughly rolled out, I've got 25 grams of unsalted butter which I've softened at room temperature. We're going to spread this all around. Next I'm going to sprinkle over 1 teaspoonful of matcha, so even more matcha. And finally we're going to add 50 grams of light muscovado sugar and we're just going to crumble / sprinkle this over. Now we're going to roll it up. And now what I like to do is, instead of going straight into a knife, I like to mark where I want to cut it. We're going to cut 6 by the way. Do a little score there, right in the middle, and then 1, 2. The end one can be a bit bigger because it tapers off at the end. And then, for a neat cut, I like to take some, what is this called? Dental floss, that's the stuff. Yep, this is dental floss. Make sure it's unflavoured though, not the minty stuff or whatever. This is just unflavoured dental floss. And then I put it underneath our bun, aligning with one of our markings. I'm going to cross it over and then I'm going to pull. And then, look how beautiful is that. And I'm going to simply put it in my greased pan. Let's continue. There we go, I can never get them 100% even, but you know, it doesn't matter. We're going to cover this again with cling film and we're going to wait for it to rise a second time. And usually this doesn't take as long as the first rise. Sorry, I'm making a right pig's ear of this. Let's put it down nice and stable. And we're going to wait for it to nearly double in size pretty much. And then when it's halfway doubled in size, then we can preheat our oven. When you're almost ready to bake, preheat the oven to 180 degrees C. Aren't these beautiful? Look how puffy they are. Right, let's get rid of the cling film. And our final task before we pop them in the oven is to glaze them just with a little bit of milk. Now, usually I use a mixture of egg, beaten egg and milk to glaze my buns, and that gives an even more golden colour, but since these are matcha, we don't want them too dark. And of course, if you want the most golden colour of all, then you glaze them with egg yolk and milk without the egg white. So yes, usually I just beat a whole egg and glaze my buns because I'm not that fussed. But since we are working with matcha and we don't want them too dark because we want that matcha to shine, just the milk will do. And now we're going to bake these for about 20 minutes until they are risen and golden brown. Woo, good lord, I've created monsters. Right, let's let these cool a little bit, but not too much because we want them warm to glaze them. So let's set this aside. Now while the buns are cooling a little bit, I'm going to make the sugar glazed icing. So I've got 100 grams of icing sugar here. I'm going to sift in a teaspoonful of matcha. And I'm going to gradually stir in about 15 millilitres of cold water. It will depend how thick or thin you want it, so add a little more or a little less as you like. Start on the low side though of the water because icing sugar is super deceptive, and you think you're adding a little bit and it's not soaking in, but all of a sudden it turns into just straight up water, so add slowly. Perfect, and now, while our buns are still a little bit warm, we're going to drizzle this straight over. And now you can serve these straight away, but I like to let the icing solidify just for 5 minutes. This is still actually quite warm, so I'll let it cool down a little bit more, and then we'll serve them just a little bit warm. Look at how fluffy that is on the inside. Lovely matcha glaze on top. Very happy with that. I'm going to give one a cheeky squeeze. Get a load of this. Perfect spiral. This one was the enormous one that we cut a little bit too big. If you have better eyeballing measuring judgment than me, then by all means cut them more evenly. Me, I wasn't feeling particularly perfectionist there and I just sort of winged it. My spiral buns never come out even and I'm okay with that. As you can see, if I turn it around sneakily, I have already peeled a chunk off for the slow-mo so I could show you how soft it is. Once again, super squishy. That's a well kneaded, well risen dough. And I think I'm going to take a bite. Hang on, let me whip my hair out of the way. Oh, nearly gave myself whiplash. Cheers. Insanely good. You can see that vein of brown sugar and matcha in there. It's so soft. I love a good butter and rich dough. I was very proud of the perfect spirals as well for these. If you want, you can also put in other things like chocolate chips, chopped nuts, raisins into the centre when you roll it up, but since these are very matcha focused, I quite like these nice and simple. So there you go, sticky matcha buns. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's recipe video and I hope you'll join me next Wednesday for my next one. Get the full written recipe on my blog tashcakes.com, follow me on Instagram, I'm tashcakes.taste, and find me on TikTok too, I'm tashcakes there too, but my handle is Foods in Slow Motion. Subscribe and hit the notification bell if you'd like to see more. Give this video a like if you'd like to help other people find it. Comment down below if you'd like me to make anything in particular, and I will see you all next time. Be good, be nice, and have a good week. My hair's getting poofier and poofier for no reason. There must be a thunderstorm coming.